Sir Henry is the last of the Baskervilles following the death of Sir Charles Baskerville of Dartmoor. He was honestly convinced that a dreadful fate overhung his family. On the night of Sir Charles's death, I followed the footsteps down the yew alley. I saw the spot at the Moorgate where he seemed to have waited. I checked and corroborated all the facts which were mentioned at the inquest, but one false statement was made by Barrymore. He said that there were no traces upon the ground round the body. He did not observe any, but I did. Some little distance off, but fresh and clear. Mr. Holmes, they were the footprints of a gigantic hound.
If I had only been there. It is evidently a case of extraordinary interest.
You have nothing else to report to us before we go into this matter?
Well, it depends upon what you think worth reporting. I put my new brown boots outside my door last night and there was only 1 in the morning.
Tell me, what are your intentions for Baskerville Hall?
To go there at the end of the week.
You must certainly not go alone.
I will come with pleasure. I do not know how I could better employ my time. There is a couple who run the hall by the name of Barrymore, and a groom. There is our friend, Dr. Mortimer, and there is his wife. There is the naturalist, Stapleton, and there is his sister. There is Mr. Franklin of Laughter Hall, and there are 1 or 2 other neighbors.
Grimton, next stop, Grimton.
There's a mounted soldier on the road. What is this, Perkins?
There's a convict escaping Princeton, sir. You see, it isn't like any ordinary convict. It is Selden, the Notting Hill murderer. Baskerville Hall.
Just as I imagined it. Is it not the very picture of an old family home?
Devil hound, an escaped convict, a weeping woman, a wry telegrams. Whatever next? What is that?
The peasants say it is the Hound of the Baskervilles calling for its prey.
Good morning, Watson.
Good morning. I've barely slept after last night's adventure.
Me neither. To know that murderer is out on the moor? And I don't think I can get that howling out of my head. My God, can there be some truth in all these stories? Is it possible that I really am in danger from so dark a cause? You don't believe it, do you, Watson?
No.
And yet, it was one thing to laugh about it in London. It's another thing to stand out here in the darkness of the moor and hear such a cry as that. And my uncle! There was a footprint of the hound beside him as he lay. It all fits together. I don't think that I'm a coward, Watson, but that sound seemed to freeze my very blood. Feel my hand.
It's as cold as a block of marble.
What do you advise that we do now?
You will stay in the safety of the hall. If we can only trace LL, it should clear up the whole business.
We've gained that much. We know that there is someone who has the facts. If only we can find her.
I'll go to the post office this morning and inquire as to those initials.
Dr. Watson, good morning.
Ah, Dr. Mortimer.
I've been visiting the outlying farmhouse of Falmire. Do you go into town? Climb up into my dog cart, I insist. How is Sir Henry, and how goes your investigation?
He is disturbed by the mystery surrounding him, and the more we find out, the thicker the whole plot becomes.
More woes. My little spaniel has disappeared as well. It wandered out onto the moor and never came back.
My condolences, sir.
I do not fancy that I'll see my little dog again.
By the way, Mortimer, I suppose there are few people living within driving distance of this whom you do not know.
Hardly any, I think.
Can you, then, tell me the name of any woman whose initials are LL?
No. There are a few gypsies and labouring folk for whom I can't answer, but among the farmers or gentry there is no one whose initials are those. Wait a bit, though. There is Laura Lyons. Her initials are LL.
Who is she?
She is Franklin's daughter.
What? Old Franklin the Crank?
Exactly. She married an artist named Lyons who came sketching on the moor. He proved to be a blackguard and deserted her. Her father refused to have anything to do with her because she had married without his consent, and perhaps for one or two other reasons as well. So between the old sinner and the young one, the girl has had a pretty bad time.
How does she live?
Her story got about, and several of the people here did something to enable her to earn an honest living. Stapleton did for one, and Sir Charles for another. I gave a try for myself. It was to set her up in a typewriting business.
Thank you, Mortimer. I don't think I shall need to go into the village now.
Watson, some advice. Don't mention Mrs. Lyons to Franklin. As I say, he refuses to acknowledge her and becomes detestably angry when one reminds him of her. And look, here he comes now, waving from his house.
Dr. Watson! Dr. Mortimer! A pleasure! It is a great day for me!
I shall be off on my rounds. Good day, Franklin. Good day, Watson.
What? Oh, yes, goodbye. Mr. Franklin, good morning.
I have brought off a double event. I mean to teach them that in these parts the law is law. I have established a right-of-way through the centre of old Middleton's Park. Slap across it, sir, within 100 yards of his own front door. We'll teach these magnates so they cannot ride roughshod over the rights of the commoners. Confound them! And I've closed the wood where the Fenworthy folk used to picnic. These infernal people seem to think that there are no rights of property. Both cases decided, Dr. Watson, and both in my favour.
How on earth did you do that?
Look it up in books, sir. It'll repay reading. It cost me £200, but I got my verdict. The county constabulary is in a scandalous state, sir, and it has not afforded me the protection to which I am entitled. I told them that they would have an occasion to regret their treatment of me, and already my words have come true.
How so?
Because I could tell them what they're dying to know, but nothing would induce me to help the rascals in any way. What about the convict on the moor?
You don't mean that you know where he is?
I know because I've seen with my own eyes the messenger who takes him his food. He goes up the Black Tor, over there.
I should say that it was much more likely that it was the son of one of the moorland shepherds taking out his father's dinner. The whole steep slope is covered with grey circular rings of stone. What are they, sheep pens?
No, they are the homes of our worthy ancestors. Prehistoric man lived thickly on the moor. Now, look, I see him. Come, sir, come. You will see with your own eyes through my telescope and judge for yourself. Quick, before he passes over the hill.
There he is. Sure enough, a small urchin with a little bundle upon his shoulder. Certainly, there is a boy who seems to have some secret errand.
And what the errand is, even a county constable could guess. But not one word shall they have from me, and I bind you to secrecy also, Dr. Watson. Not a word, you understand?
Good day, Mr. Frankland. Just as you wish.
Surely you're not going? You will help me to empty the decanter in honor of this great occasion?
Good day, good day. The boy's nowhere to be seen. There's a circle of old stone huts. This was certainly where the man lived. Some blankets rolled in a waterproof, the ashes of a fire in. Beside it lay some cooking utensils and a bucket half full of water. A small cloth bundle, the same, no doubt, which I had seen through the telescope upon the shoulder of the boy. Let's see. A loaf of bread, a tin tongue, and 2 tins of preserved peaches, and a sheet of paper. At last, my foot is on the threshold of his hiding place. His secret is within my grasp. Let's see. Dr. Watson is searching for L.L. Good God. Someone's coming.
Come out, and please be careful with the revolver.
All right, here I come.
It is a lovely evening, my dear Watson.
Holmes! Holmes! Oh, I never was more glad to see anyone in my life.
Or more astonished, eh? The surprise was not all on one side, I assure you. How did you localize me?
Your boy had been observed, and that gave me a guide where to look.
The old gentleman with the telescope, no doubt. I could not make it out when first I saw the light flashing upon the lens.
And I saw you one night.
When I was so imprudent as to allow the moon to rise behind me?
Yes, I saw you then.
Ah, I see that Cartwright has brought up some supplies. What's this paper? Who is L.L.?
Mrs. Laura Lyons. She sent a note to Sir Charles, asking to meet him on the night of his death.
Well done. Our researches have evidently been running on parallel lines, and when we unite our results, I expect we shall have a fairly full knowledge of the case.
Well, I'm glad from my heart that you are here. But how in the name of wonder did you come here? And what have you been doing? I thought that you were in Baker Street.
That was what I wished you to think.
Then you use me, and yet do not trust me.
My dear fellow, you have been invaluable to me in this as in many other cases, and I beg that you will forgive me if I have seemed to play a trick upon you. In truth, had I been with you, it is confident that my point of view would have been the same as yours, but my presence would have warned our very formidable opponents to be on their guard. As it is, I have been able to get about, and I remain an unknown factor in the business, ready to throw in all my weight at a critical moment. Where is it? Where is it, Watson?
That way, I think.
The hound! Come, Watson, come! Great heavens, if we are too late!
There, upon our left, on that ridge of rocks. His head's doubled under him at a horrible angle, as if he's tried throwing a somersault. His skull is crushed.
That peculiar ruddy tweed suit. It's Sir Henry Baskerville. Fool that I was to hold my hand, and you, Watson, see what comes of abandoning your charge.
Oh, Holmes, I shall never forgive myself for having left him to his fate.
A figure's approaching us over the moor.
Mr. Stapleton.
Why, Dr. Watson, that's not you, is it? You're the last man I should have expected to see out of a moor. But, dear me, what's this?
He appears to have broken his neck by falling over these rocks. My friend and I were strolling on the moor when we heard his cry.
Somebody's hurt? Not... Don't tell me it's our friend Sir Henry.
Ah, A beard! A beard! The man has a beard.
It's not the Baronet?
Who is this?
It is Selden, the escaped convict.
He's wearing Sir Henry's old suit. He must have been given it by the Barrymores.
What do you think about it, Mr. Sherlock Holmes?
You are quick at identification.
We've been expecting these parts since Dr. Watson came down. His records of your cases have reached us here. Of course, you know the legend of the themed dog which haunts our family?
Yes, but fortunately it seems to not have struck the family this time. Still, I will take an unpleasant remembrance back to London.
Oh, you returned today?
One cannot always have the success for which one hopes. An investigator needs facts, not legends or rumors. It has not been a satisfactory case.
I would suggest carrying this poor fellow back to my house, but it would give my sister such a fright that I do not feel justified in doing it. I think that if we put something over his face, he'll be quite safe until more help can be fetched.
Yes, I agree. Goodbye, Mr. Stapleton. Come, Watson. Let's get to Baskerville Hall.
Good night.
Good night, gentlemen.
Oh, Watson! And Mr. Holmes! I've been moping in the house all day since Watson went off in the morning. I guess I should have some credit, for I have kept my promise. If I hadn't sworn not to go about alone, I might have had a more lively time. For I had a message from Stapleton asking me over there.
I have no doubt that you would have had a more lively time.
How was that?
There's a dead man on the moor. The convict. This poor wretch was dressed in your clothes.
Oh. Have you made anything out of the tangle?
It has been an exceedingly difficult and most complicated business. There are several points upon which we still want light. Now, these are really a very fine series of portraits.
Oh, I'm glad to hear you say so.
I know what is good when I see it, and I see it now. They are all family portraits, I presume. Do you know the names?
Barrymore has been coaching me in them. I think I can say my lessons fairly well.
Who is the gentleman with the telescope?
That is Rear Admiral Baskerville, who served under Rodney in the West Indies. The man with the blue coat and the roll of paper is Sir William Baskerville, who was chairman of committees of the House of Commons under Pitt.
And this cavalier opposite to me, the one with the black velvet and the lace?
Ah, you have a right to know about him. That is the cause of all the mischief. The wicked Hugo, who started the Hound of the Baskervilles. We're not likely to forget him.
Dear me. He seems a quiet, meek-mannered man enough, but I dare say that there was a lurking devil in his eyes.
This chance of the picture has supplied us with one of our most obvious missing clues.
How about the case?
You are engaged, as I understand from what Watson has explained, to dine with our friends the Stapletons tonight.
I hope you'll come also. They're very hospitable people. I'm sure they'd be very glad to see you.
You can tell your friends that we should have been happy to have come with you, but that urgent business required us to be in town. We hope very soon to return to Devonshire. Will you remember to give them that message?
When do you desire to go?
Immediately. We will drive into Coombe Tracy, but Watson will leave his things as a pledge that he will come back to you. Watson, you will send a note to Stapleton to tell him that you regret that you cannot come.
I've a good mind to go to London with you. Why should I stay here alone?
Because it is your post of duty. One more direction. I wish you to drive to Merripit House. Send back your trap, however, and let them know that you intend to walk home.
To walk across the moor?
That's the very thing you've so often cautioned me not to do.
And as you value your life, do not go across the moor in any direction, save along the straight path which leads from Merripit House to the Grimpen Road. Now, goodbye, Sir Henry. We will return soon.
I'm much astounded by this programme, though you said to Stapleton your visit would terminate today. It had not crossed my mind, however, that you would wish me to go with you.
Now, Watson, I think that we cannot employ our time better than by calling upon your acquaintance, Mrs. Laura Lyons. I'm sure her knowledge will clear the last of the enveloping murk.
Mrs. Lyons? My name is Dr. Watson. This is Mr. Holmes. I have the pleasure of knowing your father.
There is nothing in common between my father and me. If it were not for the late Sir Charles Baskerville, I might have starved for all that my father cared.
It is about the late Sir Charles Baskerville that I have come here to see you.
I have already said that I owe a great deal to his kindness. If I am able to support myself, it is largely due to the interest which he took in my unhappy situation.
Did you correspond with him?
What is the object of these questions? I certainly wrote to him once or twice to acknowledge his delicacy and his generosity.
Did you ever write to Sir Charles asking him to meet you?
Certainly not.
Not on the very day of Sir Charles's death?
Surely your memory deceives you. I could even quote a passage of your letter. It ran, "Please, please, as you are a gentleman, burn this letter and be at the gate by 10 o'clock.
Is there no such thing as a gentleman?
You do Sir Charles an injustice. He did burn the letter, but sometimes a letter may be legible even when burned. You acknowledge now that you wrote it?
My life has been one incessant persecution from an husband whom I abhor. The law is upon his side, and every day I am faced by the possibility that he may force me to live with him. At the time that I wrote this letter to Sir Charles, I had learned that there was a prospect of my regaining my freedom if certain expenses could be met. It meant everything to me. Peace of mind, happiness, self-respect, everything. There were several gentlemen who knew my sad history and united to help me. One was Mr. Stapleton, a neighbour and intimate friend of Sir Charles's. This man had offered me marriage on condition I could get a divorce from my husband.
But why a rendezvous in the garden instead of a visit to the house?
I never went. Something intervened to prevent my going.
You have confessed that you asked Sir Charles to be at the gate at 10 o'clock. We know that that was the place and hour of his death. I wish to be perfectly frank with you, Mrs. Lyons. We regard this case as one of murder, and the evidence may implicate not only your friend Mr. Stapleton, but his wife as well.
His wife?
The fact is no longer a secret. The person who has passed for his sister is really his wife.
His wife? His wife? He is not a married man. Prove it to me. Prove it to me, and if you can do so, I will help you in any way.
I have come prepared to do so. Here is a photograph of the couple taken in York 4 years ago. It is endorsed Mr. and Mrs. Vandeleur, but you will have no difficulty in recognizing him and her also if you know her by sight.
Mr. Holmes, he has lied to me, the villain, in every conceivable way. And why? Why?
I entirely believe you, madam. The recital of these events must be very painful to you. Perhaps it will make it easier if I tell you what occurred and you can check me if I make any material mistake. The sending of this letter was suggested to you by Stapleton?
He dictated it.
I presume that the reason he gave was that you would receive help from Sir Charles for the legal expenses connected with your divorce?
Exactly.
And then after you had sent the letter, he dissuaded you from keeping the appointment.
He told me that it would hurt his self-respect that any other man should find the money for such an object.
He appears to be a very consistent character.
And he made you swear to say nothing about your appointment with Sir Charles.
He did.
I think that on the whole, you have had a very fortunate escape. We must wish you good morning now, Mrs. Lyons, and it is probable that you will very shortly hear from us again.
Good morning, Mrs. Lyons. My sympathy.
Our case becomes rounded off, and difficulty after difficulty thins away in front of us. I tell you, Watson, we have never had a foeman more worthy of our steel, a creature of infinite patience and craft, with a smiling face and a murderous heart.
And now?
We should actually return at the instant when we were likely to be needed. We will follow Sir Henry to his appointment at the Stapletons, and follow him back on his walk from Merripit House. Already I seem to see our nets drawing closer.
I see the lights of Merripit House ahead of us.
That is the end of our journey. I must request you walk on tiptoe, not to talk above a whisper. This will do. These rocks upon the right make an admirable screen.
The blinds are up.
Creep forward quietly and see what they are doing, but for heaven's sake, don't let them know that they are watched.
There are only 2 men in the room, Sir Henry and Stapleton, both of them smoking cigars.
Stapleton is talking with animation, but the baronet looks pale and distraught.
Perhaps the thought of that lonely walk across the ill-omened moor is weighing heavily upon his mind.
Stapleton's coming down the path. What's he doing in the outhouse?
Look back over the moor, Holmes, at the fog that is drifting slowly in our direction.
It's moving towards us, Watson. The one thing upon earth which could have disarranged my plans. If he isn't out in a quarter of an hour, the path will be covered. In half an hour, we won't be able to see our hands in front of us.
Shall we move farther back, upon higher ground?
Yes, I think it would be as well. We're going too far. We dare not take the chance of his being overtaken before he can reach us. At all costs, we must hold our ground where we are.
Thank God, I think I hear him coming. There he is, coming swiftly along the path. He keeps glancing over his shoulder, like a man who is ill at ease.
As any would be. The fog has swallowed him again. Listen. Look out! It's coming!
A hound! It's an enormous coal-black hound, outlined in flickering flame, fire bursting from its open mouth, glowing eyes. I've never seen anything more appalling, more hellish.
It's gone. We've let it pass. So paralyzed were we by the apparition that we allowed him to pass. It's following hard upon the footsteps of our friend. Quickly, Watson!
Help me! Help me! Please, please, help!
It's at his throat! Shoot, Watson! Shoot it again!
My God, what was it? What in heaven's name was it?
It's dead, whatever it is.
The glowing is still upon its body. Look, I've wiped it and my own fingers smoulder and gleam in the darkness.
Phosphorus! We owe you a deep apology, Sir Henry, for having exposed you to this fright. I was prepared for a hound, but not for such a creature as this. And the fog gave us little time to receive him.
You saved my life!
Having first endangered it. But here, it seems, comes the last danger.
It's the Stapletons.
Miss Stapleton?
Is he safe? Has he escaped?
He followed the hound to call him off. Of that you may be certain, Mrs. Stapleton.
No, I did not mean my husband. Sir Henry, is he safe?
Mrs. Stapleton?
The lady who has passed here as Miss Stapleton is in reality his wife.
Good heavens, Holmes. Are you sure of what you say?
Because he foresaw that she would be very much more useful to him in the character of a free woman, I repeat, the lady is his wife, not his sister.
And the hound?
It is dead.
God, thank God. Oh, this villain. See how he has treated me. I could endure it all. Ill usage, solitude, a life of deception, everything, as long as I could still cling to the hope that I had his love. But now I know that in this also, I have been his dupe and his tool.
Mrs. Stapleton also wrote to Sir Henry and gave him the first warning of his danger. She adopted the expedient of cutting out the words which would form the message.
I had some inkling of his plans. I dared not write to warn the man whom I knew to be in danger to give him the first warning. If the letter should fall into my husband's hands, my own life would not be safe.
As I said, you can be certain that he followed. Hello, Watson, what's this? It's the man himself, by all that's wonderful and audacious. Look, he's dropped something. Not a word to show your suspicions. Sir Henry, lie there.
Here, come! Mr. Holmes! I thought you were returning to London. And Dr. Watson? Beryl? But, dear me, what's this? Somebody's hurt? I was uneasy about Sir Henry.
Why about Sir Henry in particular?
I naturally became alarmed for his safety when I heard cries upon the moor. Oh, you know the stories that the peasants tell about a phantom hound and so on. I was wondering if there was any evidence of such a sound tonight.
A greater mystery to me is why this hound should be loose tonight. Presuming that all our conjectures are correct, I suppose that it does not always run loose upon the moor.
I suppose not. How is Sir Henry? How came you, in the darkness, to know that the hound was on his trail?
The hound is dead.
And I am not.
It is clear enough that the hound has been laid on from some article of Sir Henry's. The boot, which was abstracted in the hotel, in all probability. By chance, however, the first brown boot which was procured for him was a new one, and therefore useless. The second, though, like the one dropped here, Sir Henry?
Mayor's Toronto is printed on the leather inside. It's my old black boot.
Exactly. He retained it in his hand after using it to set the hound.
Why this elaborate deception?
Do you remember the portrait of Sir Hugo Baskerville? There's no doubt about the authenticity, for the name and the date, 1647, are on the back of the canvas. I had pictured him as a more robust person.
There is something of Sir Henry about the jaw.
Just a suggestion, perhaps. Yes, it is an interesting instance of a throwback which appears to be both physical and spiritual. My eyes have been trained to examine faces and not their trimmings. The face of Stapleton had sprung out of the canvas. The fellow is a Baskerville. That is evident.
Good heavens!
My inquiries show beyond all question that the family portrait did not lie, and that this fellow is indeed a Baskerville, the son of that Roger Baskerville, the younger brother of Sir Charles, who fled with a sinister reputation to South America. We now come to that portion of his life which has proved to be of such intense interest to us. He meant in the end to have the Baskerville estate, and he was ready to use any tool or run any risk for that end. Sir Charles himself told him about the family hound. His ingenious mind instantly suggested a way by which the baronet could be done to death, and yet it would be hardly possible to bring home the guilt to the real murderer. It is possible that Stapleton did not know of the existence of an heir in Canada.
No, get back!
After him! He's running onto the moor! He's running into Grimpen Mire. I've lost him in the mist.
Help!
There, that way.
Here. A footprint in the mud.
And no more after it. Just this bog.
By God, he's stumbled in and been sucked under.
I said it once, Watson, and I say it again now. Never yet have we helped to hunt down a more dangerous man than he who is lying somewhere down in that foul slime. This cold and cruel-hearted man is beyond justice and forever buried, and with him we've laid the Baskerville ghost once and forever.